Aloha, hello everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Countdown with me, Rich Hagon, and him, Pro Tour historian Mr. Brian David-Marshall. BDM, what is Friday Night Countdown?
It is a show where we break down everything we learned this past weekend at Pro Tour Dark Ascension here in Honolulu. And we're bringing it to you from The Planet, a local Wizards Play Network game store here in Honolulu. Behind me you can see about 32 local players playing in a Dark Ascension Innistrad draft, and perhaps thinking about which standard deck from this weekend they're going to take to their Friday Night Magic.
You'll get cards, you'll get decks, you'll get players. Plus, we've got a very special treat for you.
Yeah, we got a chance to sit down with Pro Tour champion Brian Kibler just moments after his victory over Paulo Vitor Damarosa to talk about his semifinal victory over none other than fellow Hall of Famer Jon Finkel. He walked us through their Game 5, a game for the ages, and took us through it card by card and play by play.
All of that still to come, but first, top 8 decks. Both Brian Kibler and Paulo Vitor Damarosa played red-green ramp decks. These are basically evolutions of Junior Ian Naga's World Championship winning deck from San Francisco 2011. They generate as much mana as quickly as they can to get to 6 to get them to either Primeval or Inferno Titan, and they also have, along the way, the Huntmaster of the Fells out of Dark Ascension.
Jon Finkel showed the world the latest evolution of the Delver deck by adding Drugskull Captain and Lingering Souls to the popular blue-white archetype. It's the same deck that was also piloted to the quarterfinals by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Jelger Wiegersma.
Mamoru Nagai of Japan was also playing a ramp deck, but this time it was Glisser Ramp, building on the Conley Woods deck that won Grand Prix Orlando. Once again, generating lots of mana early with cards like Rampant Growth and Sphere of the Suns before landing a big fat Titan, including the infamous Black Grave Titan.
Sweden's Dennis Rashid had a different take on the Delver deck entirely. His deck featured 10 1-drops and had a very, very aggressive strategy. He used Champion of the Parish, Delver of Secrets, and Doom Traveler, and then topped things off with a casting cost that ended at 2 or 3 mana.
From the Czech Republic, Lucas Blahon was playing Birthing Pod. His deck had so many creatures and so many tricks. With a Birthing Pod active, he could sacrifice a Strangleroot Geist and get back Blade Splicer, a Golem token, and an Undying Strangleroot Geist, and that was just the beginning as he worked his way up the chain.
Matthew Costa took yet a third take on the Delver deck into the quarterfinals of Pro Tour Dark Ascension. While Finkel's deck enhanced its creatures with Drugskull Captain, Costa opted for the more traditional equipment plan, playing Sword of War and Peace and Runechanter's Pike on top of his hexproof creatures.
And that's the top 8 decks of Pro Tour Dark Ascension, decks you need to know about for your next Friday Night Magic. Hello everyone, welcome back to Pro Tour Dark Ascension 2012. Rich Hagon standing alongside one of the world's leading limited experts, Mr. Ben Stark of the United States, the Floridian. Here we are now on the table. We have some cards, it's fair to say. We have the complete Dark Ascension. And what we've got them sorted out by color and by commonality as well. So we've got the commons up here, move down to the uncommons, the rares, and then you've got your mythics down the bottom. So what we're going to do, Ben, obviously all drafts start with Dark Ascension now. Dark Ascension, Innistrad. So we're going to talk through some of the key archetypes, the kind of cards you're going to be looking for. So Ben, where do you want to start in these 100 and many cards? Where are we going to look?
Well, we might as well start at the top.
Okay.
I consider the best archetype now to be blue-white. An aggressive deck based around flyers, some bounce spells and things of that nature.
So that brings us over to this side of the table. And obviously, just by the nature of rares and mythics, we're going to concentrate on the uncommons and the commons. So what kind of cards are we looking at that we're going to be excited by?
Well, the commons that you're most interested in from blue are the Stormbound Geist and the Nephalia
Sea Kite. So that's our 2/3 flash flyer for 4, and then 2/2 Undying comes back as a 3/3.
Yeah, because like I said, the deck is mostly based around flying creatures, and obviously if it's an aggressive non-flying creature, but the main plan is just to have flyers and then a little something to hold the ground and tap some things, bounce some things. I mean, same strategy it was 10 years ago, really.
Okay, so there's a couple of nice blue common flyers. What else have we got in terms of white then?
Well, the stuff that goes well with it from the white commons that you're looking for is the Nimbless of the Mist, another perfect aggressive flyer. 2/1 tap a blocker, so if they did have an annoying Chapelgeist or a spider that was tough for you to get through, you'd be able to tap it, get in for 4 or 6, let's say, and then have an additional flyer for when you're trying to alpha strike.
Okay.
The Burden of Guilt is obviously like the best of these 4 and the best common for this archetype that you're looking to open.
So that's your kind of pacifism effect.
Sure, and it's so cheap. 1 mana, 1 to use. It might as well be Terminate. I mean, you don't need the mana. The only problem is that the creature stays in play. So if it was a utility creature or something,
Sure.
they may still get some use out of it.
All right, but in terms of the nuts and bolts of attacking for 2, we get something
Tapping
out
their
of the
big
way.
ground creature or their 1 flying creature, whatever
Yeah.
can block you. It kills it completely. Tap it on their turn, it can't attack or block.
Okay,
A lot of other of these are fine too.
sure. Once we get to the uncommons, we're not going to see them as often by definition. So what do you like in terms of the uncommon row in blue-white?
The Towergeist is very good.
So that's the 2/2 flyer.
Yeah, a 2/2 flyer for 4 is already playable, but not exciting at all. Like Abbey Griffin sees use.
Sure.
But this one just replaces himself when you play him. And when you look at 2 cards in Limited and put 1 on the bottom, that's almost perfect, because more often than not, you don't need more land if you already have 4. So you're just going to get rid of a land
And have the spell.
and get another spell.
Okay.
Can't ask for more than that.
So we'll add Towergeist to our nice blue-white collection.
Nibbless of the Breath is also very good, very first pickable. I mean, it's just a flying tapper. A tapper is great for this archetype. Like I keep iterating, you mostly have to get through Chapelgeist and spiders and things of that nature. Tap their 1 guy that's beating you, or if they don't have a guy that's a problem, you hit them for 2. It's like a perfect card for this deck. It's not a bomb, but you're happy to first pick it.
Yep. Now, tell me a little bit about Soul Seizor, because it's a double face card. It's a card that if you're playing in real life drafts, everyone's going to see. You're going to hold it up round the table. Everyone knows it's there. Is that a card that if you get past, you see it as a signal? Is it a card that you're happy taking first to make it a signal? What's your take on that card?
Well, it's actually very interesting that you bring that up, because Soul Seizor has a card in play I feel is a bit overrated. It's actually not that great. If you're getting in with your 5-drop flyer, the damage from an average 5-drop flyer should be killing them.
Yeah, and this is just 1.
Yeah, so it's very easy for them to just have a blocker and block it, and if they have no blockers to stop your 5-drop, I mean, you should be able to win. If it was like a 5-mana 3/3 flyer, I would prefer that to the 5-mana 1/3 mind control ability.
Okay.
That said, signaling is very important in Pack 1.
Okay.
I mean, if you can, if you're in serious drafts, people do not mess around. If they know you're a blue player, people on both sides of you are going to try their best to stay out of blue. I mean, frankly, if you share colors with your neighbor, you both end up with bad decks, and everyone wants to win, so nobody wants to end up with a bad deck. So, I mean, if it were Pack 3, which it couldn't be, I would not be inclined to take this over very many of the commons we just talked about.
Yep.
Pick 1, pack 1. It's tough to rate. It's more of, do you think the people are paying attention and will stay out of blue if you take it? I like the card. I'll always have it in my main deck if I'm blue, but I don't think it's very powerful. I think it's a good early pick, mostly only as a signal of what color you're playing.
Okay, one more quick question. Let me just ask about Lingering Souls, because it's a card that on the face of it works fine in blue-white. Is blue-white an archetype where you're very happy to splash a couple of swamps here and there for maybe a tragic slip and the flashback on a Lingering Souls, or is this something you steer clear of?
Well, while I will flash a swamp or a grotto or whatever for a Lingering Souls because it's such a powerful card, I'm not happy to splash in blue-white. It's a very aggressive deck based around 2-drops and 3-drops. Your 2-drop might be a Loyal Cathar that's white-white.
Yep.
A very powerful 2-drop. Your 3-drop might be this Stormbound Geist that's blue-blue.
Or a Chapelgeist
Or a Chapelgeist that's white-white. Yeah, so I'm not
Right.
looking to splash in my white-blue aggro deck at all. Like if I have one random Brimstone Volley, I would never splash into a blue-white creature deck. However, if your draft starts with a Lingering Souls because it's such a powerful card, I'm going to really look for free sources or easy ways to splash it. Like if I can pick up a Traveler's Amulet, an Isolated Chapel, or even a Grotto, which I'm not a big fan of the Grotto, but...
Evolving Wilds?
Evolving Wilds,
Yeah.
That's a perfect one. Yeah,
Okay.
Then if I can get any of that, I will splash it. If I don't get any of that, I'm not going to play 2 swamps in my blue-white deck just for a Lingering Souls.
For more draft insights with Ben Stark, check out the Pro Tour Dark Ascension coverage at dailymtg.com.
And while you're there, make sure you check out all the standard deck techs we did with top players.
we're going to highlight some of the key Dark Ascension cards to be on the lookout for at your Friday Night Magic. Spirit Delver with Jon Finkel, featuring Drogskull Captain.
Drogskull Captain is a 2/2 flyer that gives other spirits +1/+1 and hexproof, and it was the centerpiece of Jon Finkel's Delver deck. When combined with another captain, or a phantasmal image copying the Drogskull Captain, Jon's board was unassailable by targeted removal.
Soul Control with Orin Beasley, featuring Lingering Souls.
Lingering Souls, a 3-mana sorcery that puts 2/1/1 spirits into play and has flashback for 2 more spirits, was an aggressive piece of Finkel's strategy, but Orin Beasley used it in his 3-color control deck to provide air cover for an army of planeswalkers that included none other than Sorin, Lord of Innistrad himself.
Tezzeret with Shota Yasuoka, featuring Tragic Slip.
Tragic Slip was a card we also saw in Orange Beasley's deck, but this is a new removal spell that allowed known control player Shota Yasuoka to protect his Tezzeret Agent of Bolas from creatures both great and small.
5-color Reanimator with Raphael Levy, featuring Faithless Looting and Tracker's Instincts.
Yeah, if you ever like Careful Study, you are going to love Faithless Looting. It's a red sorcery with flashback that makes Raph Levy's 5-color Reanimator deck hum. He also uses Tracker's Instinct to put creatures into his hand, and more importantly, into his graveyard.
Hippo Blade with Caleb Durwood, featuring Grafdigger's Cage.
I can tell you that one deck Raph Levy's graveyard deck did not want to see was Caleb Durwood's Hippo Blade deck, and its Grafdigger's Cage is out of its sideboard. For 1 mana, this artifact simply shuts down a player's graveyard. It just shuts it down. And even if someone was able to deal with Caleb's Grafdigger's Cage, he was able to just bring it back with Rezo Hippogriff for more frustration.
Mono Black with Jasper Johnson Epstein, featuring Giraffe's Messenger and Gravecrawler.
Dralf's Messenger was an obviously powerful card, but at BBB for an Undying 3/2 zombie, not a lot of people knew if it would find a home or not coming into Pro Tour Dark Ascension. Jasper was more than happy to accommodate this in his mono black aggro deck that also featured the 1-mana Gravecrawler that keeps coming back for more.
Birthing Pod with Galdanis Vidugiris, featuring Strangleroot Geist.
Well, top 8 competitor Lucas Blohan played a fair Birthing Pod fight. Galdanis Vidugiris was less interested in giving his opponent an attack step or maybe even letting his opponent have land. And a lot of this was involved with Birthing Pod lock that he would set up starting way down at the mana curve with 2 mana and Strangleroot Geist.
Mono Green with Todd Anderson, again featuring Strangleroot Geist.
Yeah, the 2/1 hasty, Undying Strangleroot Geist also showed up in this mono green aggro deck. Todd basically just played the best creature at every spot along the mana curve, and Strangleroot Geist was batting in the 2 spot for him.
Black-White Tokens with Rob Doherty, featuring Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, Gather the Townsfolk, and many, many more.
Hall of Famer Rob Doherty looked at the token themes of Dark Ascension and took off running. He had Lingering Souls, Gather the Townfolk, and even Midnight Haunting to make tokens. And he'd back them up with the fearsome Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. And he also was able to make them into Death Touch lifelink nightmares for his opponent with the new land Vault of the Archangel.
Wolf Run Ramp with Eric Froelich, featuring Huntmaster of the Fells.
Channel Fireball's Eric Froelich showed us a slightly different take on the Wolf Run Ramp deck than his Channel Fireball teammates. Despite some differences, this deck still included the breakout card of Pro Tour Dark Ascension, Huntmaster of the Fells. A 4-mana gold card that gains you 2 life and gives you a wolf token when it comes into play, and if your opponent doesn't do anything, it transforms into a 4/4 Ravager of the Fells, doing 2 damage to a creature your opponent controls and 2 damage to your opponent.
And you can see all those cards and those deck techs in full at our Pro Tour Dark Ascension coverage at dailymtg.com. I'm here with Matt Dunn, who works at The Planet here in Honolulu. And Matt's our kind of magic guy here at the store. So Matt, I guess you run Friday Night Magic every week, right?
Yes, that is correct. We actually run a couple of F&M events each week. We have one that starts at 2 p.m. and one that starts at 6 p.m. That way we can kind of play to different crowds and people can't stay out that late, especially here in Hawaii we actually have a curfew law, so our younger players won't be able to stay out as late, but also, some people don't even get off to work till about 5, so that way we can kind of, get everyone's needs filled that way.
Absolutely. Now, of course, they play standard, they play sealed, they do some drafting as well. What was it like over the weekend? Because you had these giant TVs with people watching the coverage all weekend.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. As you can see, we have a couple of displays up here. So between rounds, people would just gather around those, watch the exciting coverage, commentary by yourself and BDM, all the guests you had in the booth there. It was a wonderful experience. On Saturday, we had a Grand Prix trial here.
Right.
And people were just, on the edge of their seats watching the event. Sunday, the feature matches in the top 8, it was exciting stuff. Finkel, Kibler had people cheering. It was just unbelievable.
Okay, now what decks are people excited about for bringing to their Friday Night Magic for standard?
Well, we have a good mix, I'd say, here in the events. We have, some of the players that follow all the articles, read all the coverage, things like that. They'll be bringing whatever the latest hot thing is, trying it out, seeing how it plays out. But some people also become very attached to certain decks, you know. I've seen people that just love the token decks so much. Just having an army out there is wonderful. They'll play it no matter what is happening in the metagame, ratchet bombs, whatever, who cares? I'm playing my tokens.
Excellent.
And they love that Dark Ascension is pushing that strategy a little bit more. They couldn't be happier to see cards like Lingering Souls and Soren. It's wonderful.
And also people using event decks.
Yes, that
as
is absolutely correct. We've had some of our newer players starting up, and the event decks, wonderful way to get into the game. I've seen people with Deathbed getting out there having fun, making a bunch of spiders, and just really enjoying Magic.
Yep, tokens, spiders, it's all good.
Yeah.
Now, what about Dark Ascension specifically? What cards are people looking at, and how is the weekend that we've just had here in Honolulu changed what people are looking for F&M?
Yeah, going in, of course, the card on everyone's lips, Soren, Lord of Innistrad. I've mentioned him before. People were just amazed when they first saw him, and he was the talk of the town leading up to this weekend. However, after the events of this weekend, seeing the top 2 decks play out, they really shine the light on Hunt Master of the Fells, the new all-star of that set. We sold out on Saturday, got a couple more copies in, sold out again immediately. He is so hot right now. He's really stealing the show.
Well, we had a great show here in Honolulu, and who knows, maybe this great community here at The Planet, maybe we could see one of them up on the big screen in Barcelona.
We'd certainly love to see that. It'd be a wonderful show. We'd be cheering right here from home, watching that great coverage.
It's time now to take a look at the Magic the Gathering Fantasy Pro Tour for Dark Ascension here on Friday Night Countdown. Nearly 14,000 of you took the time to fill out your rosters of planeswalkers and enchantments and artifacts and instants and sorceries. Great to have you with us. We've got the results. BDM, where do we start? I guess, what was the number 1 planeswalker?
Number 1 planeswalker was Garruk Primal Hunter. We saw this in both of the winning deck and the finalist deck at Pro Tour Dark Ascension. Played on the sideboard, way to draw a lot of cards, get back in the game after fighting these long attrition wars. This was in a lot of decks this weekend. It was a huge weekend for this card.
Big creature, 5 mana and above. It's a Titan, it's green, Primeval Titan. What about medium-sized creature?
Geist of St. Traft. This was a big event for that. We saw it in a lot of different decks. We saw it in blue-white humans. We saw it in Delver decks. We saw it in Spirit decks, all over the place.
Then we get the little creatures, 2 mana or below. So I think I went for Delver of Secrets, but I was second in that poll. Where did you go?
I actually went with Champion of the Parish, which I think ended up coming in third. Snapcaster Mage, Tiago Chan's invitational card, just proved to be all over the place this weekend in lots of different decks. Control decks were playing it, aggro decks were playing it. It was really ubiquitous.
The number 1 instant by a margin, Mana Leak. So many copies of that in the top decks.
Sure, probably almost as many as there were Snapcaster Mages. Mana Leak makes Snapcaster Mage better and vice versa. Those guys are usually seen holding hands together.
That is certainly something to ponder, and Ponder was in fact the number 1 sorcery. There's a surprise, just the 1 blue, but everywhere.
That whole block of 3 cards are, in a lot of decks altogether. Again, it's that ability to have a cheap spell, to be able to replay with Snapcaster Mage early in the game, turn 3 to be able to Snapcaster Mage, play a Ponder again, and go 3 cards deeper into your deck.
There were a lot of interesting enchantments you could have chosen. A lot of them were white, Honor of the Pure, Intangible Virtue. Neither of those were number one. The winner?
Oblivion Ring. And in a lot of ways, it was there to deal with those enchantments. You need to take out someone's Honor of the Pure or their Intangible Virtue, or to take out their Garruk Primal Hunter or their Liliana of the Veil. It's really, really super versatile removal that can be used against just about anything, including all those other Oblivion Rings that are running around. Okay. You saw a lot of Oblivion Ring wars this weekend.
Absolutely. Now in Artifacts, you felt that this might be a Pro Tour where swords were really important. You were spot on.
Specifically Sword of War and Peace.
Yep.
So many people were talking about Lingering Souls. So many people were talking about Champion of the Parish. Sword of War and Peace is the kind of card that lets you break that mirror, protection from white, gain life, deal extra damage. Seemed like it was going to be a great card, and it was one of the most in-demand cards at the dealer tables this weekend.
You've seen lots of blue cards, you've seen lots of white cards. What do you need to cast blue and white cards? Nice, solid blue-white mana. So what was the number one non-basic land? Seachrome Coast.
With Glacial Fortress like this far behind it.
I feel very sore about that because I went for Glacial Fortress. And so you can look online, check out your fantasy roster, see how many points you got, brag to your friends about how awesome you are, and if you didn't get the chance to do it for this time around, make sure you get your roster filled out for Pro Tour Avacyn Restored. That's coming your way in Barcelona in May.
And remember, if you played and you were tied with your friends, if you chose Brian Kibler, you have the absolute best tiebreaker. Player finish was the tiebreaker in that competition.
Time now for our milestone moment. Coming into this weekend, Raphael Levy of France had 494 lifetime pro points. That's only 6 shy of the all-time leader, the only player ever to reach 500, Kai Buddha, the Juggernaut from Germany. This is what Raph had to say on the eve of the tournament about what it would mean to finally get the 500. I'm here with one of the greats of the game, the Hall of Famer Raphael Levy of France, and this weekend Raph could become the all-time lifetime pro point leader, overtaking Kai Buddha of Germany. Raph, you've been playing Magic for more than half your life.
Yes.
So life would have been a little bit different without Magic. How did you get into the game in the first place?
Wow, that was a very long time ago. Like more than like half my life.
Yep.
That was just a friend told me about the game. Started playing. I was playing chess before.
Okay.
I liked it. Started playing, beat the older people. I liked it. So played some tournaments, won the tournaments, and here I am.
Okay. You, amongst your many records, you have the longest span of Grand Prix titles. You won Grand Prix Lyon in 1998, and then of course this year you kick off the year by winning Grand Prix.
That was before France won the World Cup. Wow. That was wow.
Do you see what he did there? He got in France winning the World Cup. Outrageous. Tell us about Lyon. What do you remember? Do you remember anything from Grand Prix?
Of course, I remember everything from that tournament, from
Okay.
first round to last round. Of course, that was the first big tournament I won. But the GPs were so small back then. I don't even remember that count. I don't even think that counts anymore.
Oh, I think
probably
that
counts.
So what? We had like 200, 300, 400, something like
400,
that.
yeah.
Whereas Austin was sort of around about, I think, 11, 1200, and of course the
1100,
big European Grand Prix. We now have over 2,000 players. Boy, is Magic grown. As far as Pro Tours are concerned, 74 of them. So for those of you looking towards your first, you've got a bit of catching up to do, it's fair to say. Again, on home soil, Paris 1997. What do you remember from that event?
I remember I had the worst deck and didn't do too well. I had a great experience. I won my first round. That's all I remember. The rest went bad, but I won the first round.
You were the co-leader of the
exactly.
Pro Tour after
I won
round.
the first round, and that was good.
Okay. Nobody in the history of the game has more top 32s than you at a Pro Tour level. The master of consistency. And yet, it feels to me that despite 3 Pro Tour top 8s, and despite 4 Grand Prix titles, and despite being the most consistent player in the game, that something's missing and something's changed in you. When you were runner-up of the European Grand Prix at the back end of 2011, you are really upset at only coming second.
Well, it was like I was that close from the title, and that was really frustrating. But I have nothing to complain about. That I caught up right afterwards. So
You certainly did by winning Austin. Now, where does the change come from? Because it's so hard to stay competitive and invested and constantly really wanting to be the best you can be. And it seems to me that something has the fire is there, perhaps as it never has been before. I know you took a trip to Brazil. Tell us a little bit about that, what you were doing there, because you weren't playtesting Magic. It's a different part of life that's come into the equation.
Like I've been sorting a lot of things in my life, and sport been taking a lot of place, and especially martial arts.
Right.
So I went to Brazil, trained jiu-jitsu for a month with friends of mine, like skipping the French nationals, like for a great experience. And practicing sports and martial arts really makes like the focus come back and get myself really together when I play now, and that's something really like important now.
So, do you feel? Is it a confidence thing? Do you feel more confident when you sit down for round one? Or is it, because one of the things that we notice is that over the last few years, you will make huge runs down the back end of the tournament and kind of run out of rounds. It's like you're one round, if only there was a 17th round or a 16th round, you'd be in because you'd win that one. And it's always like, so are you more aware of being right in the zone from turn one of round one? Is that part of it?
I have no idea. It's
Okay.
hard, it's very hard to say. I don't know. Like sometimes winning just come naturally. You know, just win. Like you could I don't know, drink coffee. Like, you know, just win. And sometimes you lose, and it's also like doing a shopping. But
Yeah, I'm more acquainted with the losing like it's doing the shopping than winning like drinking the coffee.
so I don't know where that comes from. Hopefully, I find something that
Sure.
put the nail on it and say, okay, that's how you win. And
How do people deal with you at the table? Because when you were starting out, you were the young Raphael Levy, a guy from France. But now we've got best part of 200 players qualified here for the first time. They're going to be sitting down with a living legend of the game. Are you aware of people sitting down and playing you, and they clearly feel that way about you?
like it depends, because a lot of people, like GP Orlando, they were asking, where are you from? Like, well, what do I have to do? And some people, they're like, okay, yeah, I know who you are, and they don't really say. So I guess they know who I am. I'm pretty sure they do, and so I'm pretty sure that gives me like an advantage during the games, because they tend to like play worse and be really be scared of whatever I could hold, which is probably nothing, but they play differently, and that probably gives me a lot of games. But yeah, that's probably how it goes now.
Looking at the math, top 50 here would put you level with Kai lifetime on the big 500.
Okay.
And then top 25 would put you ahead. Now I'm guessing that 6 months, a year ago, that would have been a gigantic deal for you, but that maybe here you're like, yeah, well, being top 25 will be a function of me winning the Pro Tour. How do you see it? What are your expectations for the weekend?
Passing Kai would be good. I would be like happy to be like, okay, this is done. Kai's behind me. Like Kai's been beating me forever when he was playing. So I'm like, okay, that's my revenge on him. And but yeah, making top 25 would actually give me the points I need to,
Yep.
continue the season well. So that's more of a goal in the first place. I know when I go home, if I make top 25, I'll be like, oh yeah, I made my points. And then the day after, I'm like, yeah, pass Kai, yes.
Well, whether he's top 50 or top 25, he's one of the greats of the game, and we look forward to seeing him for many more years to come. Maybe it'll be 2/3 of your life by the time you're done, who knows. Raphael Levy from France, many thanks.
Thank you.
It all came down to the 16th and final round for Raphael Levy. He won to take him to 47th place and 6 pro points. 494 became 500. Brian David-Marshall put 500 lifetime pro points into context.
Anytime you are tied with Kai Buddha in any category, it is an amazing achievement. 500 points, it has not been done before by anyone else outside of those two players. And what's amazing to me about it is Raphael Levy shows no signs of slowing down. He is playing super passionate Magic right now. He's traveling, he's playing hard, he's playing kind of angry, and honestly, I would not be surprised to see him alone at a number like 600 sometime in the near future.
Another amazing achievement was the second Pro Tour title for Brian Kibler, but it so nearly didn't happen.
To even get a shot at playing in the finals of Pro Tour Dark Ascension, Brian Kibler had to beat none other than fellow Pro Tour Hall of Famer Jon Finkel. He looked all but dead 2 different times in the match. Once in Game 5, but before that, in Game 4, he had to top deck a second copy of Whip Flare, and he only had 2 copies in his main deck and his sideboard. in order to win that game and force a Game 5.
Let's hear that majestic deciding Game 5 in all its glory, in his own words. Here is Mr. Brian Kibler. Of the semifinals of Pro Tour Dark
Hi everybody, this is Brian David-Marshall. I'm sitting here with Pro Tour Dark Ascension champion Brian Kibler, and we are going to look at his Game 5 against Jon Finkel and what was going through his head as he played out this amazing game of Magic. Brian, tell me what's going on right here.
Well, one thing that's just really important is the fact that Jon's Gitaxian probing me turn 1. Gitaxian probe makes the game played a lot differently than if there isn't information that both players know each other know. The fact that Jon knows that my hand has Galvanic Blast and it has Combust and it has Huntmaster means it's going to shape the way that he plays his turns.
And that Galvanic Blast will sit there.
Oh, it's got a job to do.
So what are you thinking about as soon as he looks at the hand that you had?
Basically, I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to actually be able to play my spells, because really I'm hoping that he plays just a Delver, because I just want to be able to blast the Delver, because him knowing that I have the blast makes it much less likely, and the Combust as well, much less likely that he's ever going to commit to trying to play a Drogskull Captain, image it, which is really the scary thing that his deck can do. That's one of the things that makes this matchup a lot different than against other Delver decks, is because the Captain Image synergy makes it so that they're far more resilient to a lot of the removal, as well as a lot of the ground defense that we have that brick walls a lot lot of the other Delver creatures.
Sure, we saw that in Game 4 where he had two of those guys out. He had
right,
a whole army of 3/3 hex-proof spirits.
Yeah, those things can get very, very scary very fast. So really, I'm trying to think, okay, well, when can I actually play my Huntmaster? Because the Huntmaster is one of the better cards in the matchup. It's less powerful against Jon's version than it is against some versions, because Jon does have the ability, if I tap out for Huntmaster, and he has 5 mana, to play the Captain and image it, which makes the Huntmaster really just blank. He's unable to force through the sort of damage that he could, or keep the creature under control. So here, you see that I drew Autumn's Veil, which leads me to the plan of, if the game just keeps progressing and we just keep playing lands, I have a huge edge, because my deck wants to play powerful cards, and Jon's deck is relying on cards like Mana Leak to keep me from actually resolving them. So what I want to have happen is the game just keeps going and neither of us do anything, and that's basically how the first few turns are going here.
Right now, he's been sitting back, presumably on Mana Leak, on a sideboard, Dissipate, or...
Right. Jon's deck was a lot different than a lot of the Delver decks that we played over the tournament and that we tested against. One of the big differences was that, at least before sideboarding, he barely has any counter magic. He only has 2 Mana Leaks in his main deck, but after sideboarding, he boards in an additional Mana Leak, as well as Negate and Dissipate. So I know that he's fairly light on counter magic, but that doesn't mean that I want to just cast my spells, because I can set up better situations to actually get them resolved. And here, this is one of the things that you certainly don't do in Game 1s, but because we're just sitting here, I can just attack with Nexus. I know he doesn't have Gutshot in his deck. The worst thing that can happen to my Nexus, because I also know that he doesn't have Midnight Haunting, is that he can Vapor Snag it. And I hadn't seen Vapor Snag out of Jon in the Cyborg game, so I didn't think it was in his deck. And even if he Vapor Snags there, Snag's going to be good against my hand, so it's not really a big deal.
You just have to respect the Vapor Snag, even if you haven't seen it in the sideboarded games.
So here Jon is able to Lingering Souls, which puts a bit of pressure on me. And Lingering Souls is particularly annoying because it's a card that I can't actually just dispatch with one of my removal spells. He knows that I have Galv Blast and Combust. And this is really where that dynamic of the Gitaxian Probe comes in, because he's willing to play out that the Lingering Souls into my empty board, and he also is leaving Mana Leak mana open. But yeah, he wouldn't just play out a Captain because he knows I can just kill it. So here, what's going through my head right now is that I'm trying to figure out if I can afford to play my Huntmaster and back it up with Autumn's Veil, because if he has Captain Image, I'm just dead, because I don't have a Slag Storm. My thought was that basically if he has Captain Image from this position, I can't just sit back and not do anything, because I could pass the turn now and wait until the following turn to play Huntmaster and leave Autumn's Veil and Galv Blast up. But I figured that I needed to actually, keep the game state progressing.
Right. But you decided that you were going to go for the Huntmaster there.
Yeah, I decided that I can't just play in fear. That's one of the things. That's again one of the reasons the Taxing Probe is so good is because you never have to play in fear. You have that information. So I play out my Huntmaster and I force it through with Autumn's Veil. And here, this puts Jon in a position where he has to act, because if he doesn't act, then Huntmaster is going to start doing damage. It's going to start killing creatures. It's going to start doing damage to him, and that's really the way that this ramp deck is more effective against Delver decks than traditional ramp decks is because of Huntmaster. It's just the best card in the deck. Because it forces them to make plays that they otherwise wouldn't have to make, and put them in situations where you are actually the aggressor.
We were talking earlier about Jon having a light amount of counter magic, but the Snapcaster Mage, it's kind of a deceptively light amount of magic, because with Snapcaster Mages, he actually has, a whole range, access to a whole range of spells. So 1 Celestial Purges, 2 Celestial Purges, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it so that he's less likely to have initial counter magic, but that he's able to reuse the counter magic that he does draw.
Right.
And I mean, now that I see his hand here, I'm just like, wow, man, I could just cast anything because he's out of counter magic. But when Jon actually tapped 2 mana there, I was so happy. Because the fact that he went into the tank and then just taps 2, that means he doesn't have Captain Image. And Captain Image there would have just been absolutely brutal. But he can't just play Captain there because he knows I have Galblast and Combust. So he's trying to set up for a position where he can get in a ton of damage with his Captain and not just lose it, or actually just set up Captain Image when I tap out. So my goal here is just not to tap out, to not actually ever put him in a situation that he's able to take advantage of me not having that removal up.
It eventually becomes a little bit of a staring contest, right?
Right. And in that situation, Huntmaster wins. Huntmaster wins staring contest, because if they're not doing anything, then you don't have to, and you just start eating their guys. So here I go ahead and I Zenith for another Huntmaster. I could get Thrun here, but Huntmaster just puts far more pressure on the board, and he has very, very few answers to Huntmaster. He actually has exactly Celestial Purge, which incidentally he has in this game, much like he did in the previous games that he won. There was actually in game 2 he had to draw a Celestial Purge or Image off of a Ponder, and he actually shuffled, and I was like, oh yeah, I win. And then he Celestial Purges my Inferno Titan that was going to kill him. So, but here I get the second Huntmaster, which brings me to brings my life up and allows me to go on the offense. And here the game's actually looking super good for me, because I have 2 Huntmasters in play, which is super hard for him to deal with. He has to trade his Snapcaster off here, and because I can actually just race if I have this board. But then he's able to Celestial Purge one of my guys, and then Snapcaster back the Celestial Purge to get rid of the other. So this is really pretty much the worst possible scenario from that position. And there's me harassing him for drawing Purge again.
What are you thinking at this point about the eventual outcome of the game?
I still think that this game is looking good for me, because I'm still able to keep up my removal if he does have Captain this turn. And he has to have Snapcaster now, and he's already played Snapcaster in this game to remove my Huntmaster. So I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good position still. Even if he flashes back Lingering Souls, my Huntmaster and my ability to still cast multiple spells, I actually hold on to I'm not sure if it was, I think it's the next turn. See that Rampant Growth in my hand? Next turn I actually hold the Rampant Growth, because I want to be able to play 2 spells in a turn to flip Huntmaster back once it flips over.
And interesting, right? You actually want to get that trigger from it flipping back and forth.
Absolutely. Right. Normally, the most important thing with a ramp deck is to accelerate your mana whenever you have the opportunity, because especially against a deck that's playing Mana Leak, because you want to be able to play around Mana Leak by getting enough lands in play. But because of Huntmaster and because of the value of flipping it back once it flips over, it's often correct to actually make different plays like that. One of the very interesting things about our deck in general was just all the situations that come up with Huntmaster. There were definitely a number of times in the tournament that I was able to get extra value out of the fact that my opponents really weren't used to playing against Huntmaster. It trampled over some people on the backside that didn't realize that it did.
I talked to a number of salty players who had no idea. At least one player who had a Sorin token get trampled over and lose his Sorin.
I did that to an opponent in the first round. So yeah. So here, I'm still thinking I'm in pretty good shape because my Huntmaster is forcing Jon into taking action, and he has to either play into my removal here if he has creatures, and a lot of his deck is creatures. He has a lot more actual main phase spells than a lot of the Delver decks.
Are you surprised to see him attacking there? Or?
No, I mean he has to try and race me. He has to try and kill me because if the game just extends forever, my bigger spells and my Huntmaster in particular are going to define it really.
What cards are you holding at this point in the game that Jon is aware of?
Jon knows that I have Galvanic Blast and Combust here, so I have 2 unknown cards to him at this point, and basically he needs to he can't just play a Captain or play a Dungeon Geist because he knows that my hand is those 2 removal spells. So here I'm sending both my guys. I could send just the Wolf or just the Huntmaster, but I generally here if I send just the Huntmaster, then or rather just the Wolf, I'm like playing around Snapcaster, but he has Celestial Purge in his yard, so Snapcaster is going to kill my Huntmaster anyway, which exactly happens here. So now is the point in the game where I'm getting a little wary about where this may be going, because now I only have a bunch of removal spells, and he has a reasonable number of creatures. But I do have a Wolf, and Jon he doesn't want to trade on that turn. Jon had the opportunity there if he Snapcasters.
Right, he can just get both.
He could get both of them.
Yeah.
But he wants to continue to mount the offensive because he knows that if he's only hitting me for a couple damage a turn, that my bigger spells are going to ultimately be able to take over.
Right, and he's hoping you're going to Galvanic Blast the Snapcaster Mage, or hoping you're going to combust it.
Yeah.
Even better.
Right. But I know that I need to hold on to those for more important creatures. And this is the point in the game when I actually sort of realized that this game's not going to really play out like most of the games do, because Jon has Lingering Souls in his yard, and he didn't flash it back here. Yeah, he didn't flash it back here, which telegraphs to me that he has probably something that he wants to do with that extra mana. And here I just cast the Rampant Growth that I had saved in the previous turn, which is getting me to the point that I'm more able to play around possible mana leaks for my bigger spells, but I have all cheap spells in my hand. So I still don't want to use my Combust or my Galv Blast here, because I need to save Combust for Drogskull Captain, basically. That's my whole plan. A Drogskull Captain or Dungeon Geist, I need to be able to kill with Combust. And now that Jon's at 12, and here's actually Jon was like, can you just tell me what Combust does? And I'm like, here, I have it in your hand. I'll just show it to you. And the fact that Jon's at 12 life now, and I have 2 Galvanic Blasts, and if you look, I have Sphere of the Suns and 2 Nexus. So at this point, I'm looking ahead to the possibility of just killing Jon with my Galv Blast. That's actually plan A, because I just don't have anything else going on.
Right.
I can't use my Galvanic Blasts or go on the defense with my Wolf, because he has the Lingering Souls in his graveyard, so he's going to be in a position to just make more stuff, and me using the 1-for-1 removal on either his Snapcaster or his tokens just is going to be a waste. I need to draw Whip Flare or Slag Storm or a big spell in order to actually deal with these.
And even tapping out for a Titan at this point is a little scary.
Right, it gets, I don't have enough mana to play around a mana leak just yet, at least on that turn. Here, in the following turn, I'm going to be able to play around mana leak if I draw a Titan, thanks to the Rampant Growth. So he hits me for quite a bit of damage, flashes back Lingering Souls. So now I know that I'm on a very, very short clock, and I need to draw something, either a board sweeper or something else that can help end the game quick.
Just gonna watch along with everyone else.
And there's blast number 3. So now I definitely have a plan.
Now you have a book of matches.
Yeah, now I definitely have a plan. So I have the 2 Inkmoth Nexus in play along with the Sphere, which if I activate both Nexus, that will give me Metalcraft. But I know that Jon has both Dissipate and Negate in his deck, so I don't just want to go for it right now. There's really, like, if for instance Jon had another creature in his yard and had made a token with Moorland Hunt here, I just kill him, because I just activate both of them and triple blast him.
And Jon seemed to, did he not have another creature in his yard?
He doesn't. No, he was out, which I was actually very sad about. I wished he had another creature, because then I would have just been able to kill him right there. But if you look at Jon's hand here, he does have the negate, and he has a number of things that can continue to pressure me.
I believe he's holding another Snapcaster. Maybe
Yeah, he has Snapcaster, so he's able to Snapcaster Mana Leak if I were to play like a Titan. Although Titan I could pay for, but then I just die.
Right.
That's the big problem.
Being tapped out is
just
as bad as having it get
because
countered
he has
there.
so many guys in play. I can't resolving a Titan unless it's Inferno doesn't do anything.
Right.
Resolving Primeval Titan here, and that's actually part of the reason that we board out some number of Primeval Titans for the matchup. Inferno Titan here, is still good, but
And a card that was very much on Jon's mind.
right. As the following turn will show. So here I go into 4 life. So I'm dead next turn unless I either win or draw pretty much Inferno Titan, Slagstorm, or Whip Flare. So Jon Lingering Souls. So I'm in pretty much the same situation, though now Jon has potential blockers. But here I draw a Sphere of the Suns, and I send in my Wolf.
Now, what are you thinking?
I was shocked that he didn't block. I was thinking that I'm in just a horrible position if he blocks and has anything. And here I play the Sphere of the Suns. I'm trying to play around with Vapor Snag here. The Sphere of the Suns allows me to not lose to him Vapor Snagging one of my guys and make me lose Metalcraft. So I blast him down to 4, and I blast him again. And then here, blast you. And he's dead. So that was, yeah. And my reaction, very genuine, I think. I was just like, how did that happen? And Jon immediately saying, man, guess I should have blocked. So Jon was trying to play around Inferno Titan, what was on his mind. Though, sort of after the fact, and hindsight always 20/20, he realized that even if I had played Inferno Titan, he would have been able to Mana Leak me to not be able to cast a Galvanic Blast, and he would have just been able to kill me the next turn anyway.
Right.
So he wanted to not just get his board swept and lose to Inferno Titan. But as it would have happened, he would have been able to tap me out, play his Rockskull Captain, and kill me. So pretty glad he didn't block.
And of course, from there, you went out to play Paulo, and you took that match, and you earned your second Pro Tour trophy, which, take a look at my face.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Trophy which we've used to jerry rig.
Yeah, we
an iPod recording so we could do this. But thank you very much, Brian Kibler. Congratulations again on being the Pro Tour Dark Ascension champion, and look forward to seeing you in Barcelona.
I look forward to being there.
So there you have it. We're into extra turns here on the Friday night countdown. Don't forget to join us again for Pro Tour Avacyn Restored in Barcelona, May the 11th to the 13th. But we're pretty much out of time, BDM.
Sure, you want to go play some Commander on the beach while these guys get themselves ready for their next PTQ?
Seems fair. Until we meet again, for the Pro Tour historian Brian David-Marshall, I'm your host Rich Hagon, saying bye.